wanted to divest. I'm sorry, you guys. I think my sound was not working. So I'm hoping that you guys can hear me now. And if you can hear me, go ahead and hit the like button. Chime back in so that I know that you can. So I'll redo the intro. Basically, I'm saying welcome to Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. I'm your humble host, and on this platform, we delve into popular and unpopular controversial topics that are suggested by our following on this platform and other platforms where you may have caught the content being released. And today's show specifically, we'll be talking about some things about some topics that are the highlight in the media right now around a popular relationship, controversial couple that is in the media, in the news. And they are currently going through a divorce proceeding. And it's been said that child support is being ordered in a specific amount. People are thinking that it may be a better solution for them to just stay together. The idea that it may be cheaper to keep her, right? So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to be having some discussion about Roe versus Wade and political positioning. We're going to talk a little bit about the debate. We're going to talk a little bit about how it is that, I don't know, you guys are feeling and I am feeling about some of the chaos surrounded around this election and that sort of thing. But I do want to ask you guys to keep it very respectful on this platform because we do want to make sure that people are heard, your voices are heard, and whatever guest decides to come up on the stage today, those people are heard, and we're able to have a collaborative conversation without necessarily getting disrespectful. The decision in Louisiana will also be visited in this conversation today. So we got a lot. And as I said before you guys couldn't hear me, but we do have conversations that are sometimes uncomfortable on this platform, and I do feel like this is definitely one of those days. It's going to be one of them days because essentially, people get very sensitive when you're talking about matters of religion and that sort of thing, and touchy topics about how it is that we are represented or underrepresented, represented when it comes to matters in the Constitution, if you will, So give me a second, let this show intro roll out, and I will pop right back in. I look forward to delving into this, and I am super looking forward to you guys sharing some of your insight about all of this. So give me a second, and I will be right back. Hey y'all, so let's jump right into this, okay? So if you are not already in the know about this particular situation, about 4 hours ago, an official lawsuit has been filed against the state of Louisiana's government legislation for passing this particular piece of legislation. And this is very interesting to me for a couple of reasons. I know that you guys know that it's the history of this channel where we talk about very difficult discussions. And one of those difficult discussions that we constantly have engaged in on this platform is the uptick in violence and whether or not the Black community is losing its footing and, properly raising children that have a high moral and ethical underpinning, and whether or not they even know right or wrong, right from wrong, and even if it makes sense for whether or not it makes sense for police to be policing a society that sometimes doesn't even feel like they have a dog in the fight. So in this requirement, right, in this piece of legislation, it was signed into law by Republican Governor Jeff Landry last week. All public K through 12 classrooms and state-funded universities will be required to display a poster-sized version of the 10 Commandments in large, easily read print. All classrooms. So in every aspect, right, of the understanding, what it's saying is that religion is now being reintroduced into the school system. I know that you guys hear me talk about how it used to be back before religion was overruled and taken out of school by so many people, and so many of their concerns late 80s and into the early 90s. And what we now see as perhaps the associated fallout from that. I don't know how you guys feel about religion being in the school or someone else conditioning your child from a spiritual and or religious standpoint. However, it was interesting to me, and which is why we're discussing it on this channel, that a Black woman is the face behind the opposition to this piece of legislation. And if we look at just the facts, clear facts, the Black community is the most impacted by the uptick in violent crimes, by constant violation of personal rights, and the effects of not having a spiritual foundation. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that everybody across the board has to be either Catholic or Christian. However, the 10 Commandments in essentially all ways of thinking of it is universal law across the continuum of religion in some aspects. The major commandments are, you hear it echoed across other religions, and not just Christianity, not just Catholicism. I think it's interesting that we think that people need to be without any magnitude of accountability, right? Around understanding the basic component that makes them responsible when they are breaking certain laws. And to be honest with you, if the Constitution, and we'll talk a little bit about that too, if the Constitution, if the initial founding articles, right, of organization of this country has been framed around some level of spiritualism that is just a base, right? And on our dollar bill, like I said last week, it says "In God We Trust," right? It's a basis of ethical and moral sound ground, right? If these are true, why are we standing against what stands to reform structure? If we're people, and we know we're constantly people that are victims of these heinous crimes, these heinous invasions of not only our right to liberty and freedom and to live our lives as we see fit within the confines of the law, but this is people, free people, right? A person cannot go outside of their house and then come back into their house within a 3-hour time span in America right now without turning the television on and hearing that someone has been murdered. Now, not someone being killed in a car crash, but someone has been murdered. That means someone else has taken that person alive, or someone has robbed a facility, or there has been another mass shooting where there is a casualty of more than two, three, four people, right? We're seeing these things in astronomical numbers happen every single day in America now, not just in Louisiana, but every single day everywhere. In America, there is a crime, a violent crime happening at least every 8 seconds somewhere in America. So when we think about it, the only thing that is consistent when we can say this thing is missing, that thing is missing, would be ethical and moral underpinnings of humanity. Not saying that everybody needs to be in somebody's church praising the Lord every Sunday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Saturday, whichever, denomination, you are going to, whichever synagogue or religious house that you're going to, right? But I am saying that essentially it is somebody's responsibility to raise people, human beings that are responsible and ethical and moral contributing members of society, a society that is governed by law, not just law of man, because for whatever reason we start to feel larger than man because they're the same, they bleed just like us, they look just like us, they move just like us, right? But you have to put some type of higher power conditioning, even in therapy, right? One of the most popular types of therapy that has been, proven to be ethical, efficient, and ethical in treating some of the most severe types of mental illness, dialectical behavioral therapy, the underpinning is founding all of those components of self, and religion or higher power spirituality is one of those basic components of self. That's how we look at ourselves. That's how we look at responsibility, accountability. That's how we look at right or wrong or the gray area in between. That's how we kind of evaluate all of those components. Now, if you are in a government funded educational facility and they are your first point of contact while you are young and malleable, why not start there? Why not? They literally have Christian schools. And I do feel like when we think about the impact of environment or society on children and their development, their personality development or dysfunction later on in life, a lot of that depends on what they've been exposed to in their environment. And some of it just does depend on what they've been exposed to in their family of origin. So I just think sometimes we need to take a closer look at what it is that we buy into and what it is that we take a strong stand against before we just are so quick to dismiss a thing because we see that there for no logical reason, right? There is no need for this, right? But those are my thoughts about that. Let me know below how it is that you're feeling, what, your thoughts are around that. If you feel like perhaps the school system, legislation, perhaps all of this is government overreach and you feel like it violates your basic freedoms. I'm wanting to know kind of what you guys are thinking, essentially. And if you guys think that it's overreach or not enough being done, give me what are some suggestions or some alternatives that you think could be put into place in order to rectify some of the chaos that we currently see and are experiencing in society right now. So there is that piece, right? So as we're moving on, right, I think that we definitely have to talk about parenting, right? Because there are more and more young people who are having children, becoming parents, and they are finding it more and more difficult as those children start to kind of develop their own thoughts and, perceptions of the world around them and their friends, and they get into stuff, right? They start being more involved into society and social groups. Those young people become more difficult for parents to raise because they're kind of, I don't want to say they're outside of your influence, but the older a child becomes, the more inflexible they are. And it's just like us. It's any human being. When we think about, you know, older adults, right? Older adults generally tend to be pretty inflexible, right? So because they don't need much parental guidance. And I think the job that we do as parents, essentially, many people think it becomes less taxing over the course of time as your children become grown. But the reality is it becomes more emotionally taxing, more taxing spiritually, more taxing in general. Because over the course of one's lifespan, when your child is in your everyday possession, right? Many parents start to feel like their kids are a commodity or theirs. They own them. It's their possession. That's what it is. It's a kid. I had it. It's mine. It's a kid. I made it. It's mine, right? However, children are children, right? They're little, I like to say, micro beings, right? They're human beings, and in their own right, over the course of time, they will become more eager to get out and do and explore the world and develop their own thoughts and perceptions of the world. And we consider them to be so innocent when they're young and they're impressionable. And oftentimes, because we see them as so innocent, we lose sight of the fact that they're also malleable, right? So we lose sight of the fact that there may be something that we are responsible for doing in that time that we're enjoying, having them in our lives, right? Being exposed to them being exposed to us. So I think that when children are young, we are responsible for shaping the basic founding principles of humanity within them. That would mean morality. That would be the ethical underpinnings. That would be basic safety and awareness, right? Personal awareness, and how it is that they could advocate for themselves or how they get help. We're teaching them to be connected to the world, but also independent and free, right? To explore safely. And I think as they move on, we're continuing to mold and shape and cultivate the lives of them, the minds of them. But they need us in certain ways a little bit less, right? So while a baby may need you to hold them and tote them around and do all of the things that skin to skin, connecting in that way, your older child who's now going through pre-K, kindergarten, right, may not need you to be holding them and taking them everywhere you go, having skin to skin constantly with them, but they need constant dialogue, right? A language-rich environment in order for them to grow and thrive as they introduce themselves to a formal education, right? Whether it's homeschool or in the school system. Now, you're also responsible for teaching them how it is that they accept rejection, right? From outsiders, outside of the family during that time, and how it is that they remain healthy and congruent and still have a healthy sense of self and self-esteem during that time. I think that that's what we're responsible for in that space. We're also teaching them how to advocate for their safety, who to call, how to get help, and what does that look like, right? Some basic things about who they are. And I think spirituality is a healthy and very normal part of conditioning at that point. Because I think up until that point, I always say 6 months. That's why I start everything for my kids. Kids will soak up and do whatever it is you give them and teach them, period. And oftentimes we lose the opportunity to condition them in those ways. We just, I don't know. Maybe we don't think or we don't know. It's that whole idea that parenting doesn't come with a manual, perhaps. But we lose those opportunities to condition them, right? As to how to go, where to go, when to move. And I think that that's what we've got to take our opportunities back, where we've got to take our opportunities back and then inject ourselves. Even if we lost those opportunities during early childhood development, it's okay for us to then step in at the point of adolescence, 9 to 11, 12 years old, and try to go ahead and jump in and be as proactive as possible. I say try and do it then, because it's much more difficult when we're talking about the ages 14 to 17. That phase of identity crisis is painstakingly difficult for parents. Okay. And it's equally as difficult for children, because this would be the most telling phase of their development. It tells a lot about how you've shown up as a parent, their perception of you as a parent, how it is that the world sees you, and how it's influenced their view of you as a parent, and the possibility of you having a healthy way of connecting with them as they move into early adulthood. But I always say, just try to avoid not being present, not being present before you get to that, because by the time you get to that, if you've not been present, it's going to be very difficult for you to inject yourself in that space, right? But I think spirituality is a heavy area there too. But that's where you watch them show you what it is that you essentially cultivated, shaped, and influenced to be a part of their basic foundation of personality development. But so that's that part, right? I think that as you become a parent of a young adult, you're still responsible for certain things. And as I mentioned a moment ago, sometimes the job that we are called to do as parents of adults, we think we're supposed to do less, right? But it requires so much more, because then you're following through on some of the decisions that they thought they wanted for their life and their future as adults. And you're helping them learn how to be accountable for their mistakes. You're helping them learn how to also be accountable for some of the plans that they've made without proper objectives or steps that are actionable on their part as to how they would get there and accomplish those plans or goals. And you're helping them learn how to be a little bit more smart in the way they put into place goals for the future, right? You're teaching them more healthy methods of planning as a result of them oftentimes not listening to you when they were a little bit younger. And so that takes patience, takes resiliency skills within the parent, and it also takes primarily a very healthy sense of self and some spiritual underpinnings of your own, because you've got to know how to not step in and shame them into a place where they don't feel quite secure, versus, I told you, I tried to tell you, you made this mistake, you made your bed, you got to lay in it, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes we have to say that, but I feel like it's more helpful if we help guide them during this phase of development, so that they understand that proper support, adult to adult, looks a little bit different, and that they do have to take some level of accountability and responsibility, and they have to be able to be actionable in some ways, right? So it's just helping them understand that the impact doesn't have to be so severe, but they do have to be able to take on some of that. And then I think as they move on and they're in the mature adulthood phase of life, 25 to 30, and they're starting their careers or starting their families and things like that, you're teaching them some of the basic and the foundational principles of how to stay the course, how to make a healthy commitment stick, because many of their commitments that they've made a little bit earlier than that tend to come apart at this phase. But also, you should be aging at this phase for them as well. And during that time, you need more support from them in the upcoming 10 years. So you're preparing them for that next phase of life, right? That transition. That's typically when you're telling them that you're proud of them and you're giving them their flowers and they're giving you your flowers. And this is typically, I think, the most impactful moment of parenting. We talk about the importance of some of the foundational components of parenting. We talk about the importance of being there before they're in that identity crisis state of 14 to 17. However, I think that when they're in that more mature adulthood phase of life, that's where your children need more encouragement and more support, but also praise around some of the decisions that they have been able to kind of follow through with. And this is what keeps people out of the constant cycle of getting in trouble, landing in prison, landing in jail, staying in a steady state of deplorable living conditions and not necessarily going and pursuing a career and, making unrealistic goals. And you just standing to the side, helping them or colluding with them and not necessarily helping them to acquire the best versions of themselves. Right. So I think that that's that part. And I think that as we move through these different trying times, we have to learn how to depend on our network of people, our village of people, of humans, of systems that are responsible for helping us acquire the most influence, right? Healthy influence that we can give our children, right? So, do I think the education system has overstepped by way of introducing the constant reminders of ethical and moral conditioning? I kind of want to defer to you guys. You tell me your thoughts about that. Because when you think of overstepping, when I think of overstepping, I think who then is responsible if not you, right? I started to looking at things from a pragmatic stance, right? The average household who sends their children to a formal educational house and does not homeschool their children, they do not have access to their children during the prime hours of conditioning. The school system does. The wherever they're sending them does. The daycare does. I don't care. But they don't. So if your child is in school for up to 8 hours a day, if your child is asleep for up to 8 hours of a day, that's 16 hours of a 24-hour period gone already. Right? So considering transport time, let's add another 2 hours for both, to and from. So now we're at 18 hours. For homework and school preparation, we're going to add another 2 hours. We're at 20. There are 4 more hours left in the day. So those are 4 hours that you have uninterrupted time with your child or children. The more children you have, the less time you have for conditioning, right? Now, I don't know. I don't know. If you're sending a child to school for 8 hours for educational instructional activities, right? How is it that you expect to be off work, recalibrate yourself? You've helped them with their homework. You've done all of those things. Perhaps you've watched trending topics in news and they have maybe had some screen time, game time. I don't know. I'm just looking at the traditional household, right? Structure of the household. Those 4 hours are non-existent for parent to child interaction. And that's essential if you're trying to condition anything in your child other than they're getting from their social and educational exposures at the school. So considering that, I personally do not feel like the education system or legislation has overreached. Because the reality is, where your children are spending the vast majority of their day, of their receptive energy, is inside of a school system. So if they're spending all that time inside of the school system, and let's just say somebody's dropping the ball, or somebody works 12 hours on a job and they're so tired that once they do have time with their kid, they don't have the time or the attention to dedicate to their children. They don't have the time to condition their kids. And I'm not telling you that it's okay to neglect your kids, but I'm saying the reality of it is, these are working families. These are working families. We're constantly in a state of, I don't know what to call this. It's a Great Depression it's the second coming of the Great Depression, right? So inflation, shrinkflation, whatever you want to call it, that's where we are. So that means that the average household requires 2 incomes. That also means that even with the 2 incomes that the average household requires in order to just keep their head afloat and to provide the basic necessities for that child, it removes the parent from the household. So if the parent is not in the household and the child's wake time exposure for cognition is spent in the school, almost 100% essentially. And let's say those 4 hours are them dedicating their time to social interaction and their friends, or screen time, or whatever it is that you guys are allowing your children to do. Somebody has to be conditioning the element of religion, because the weekends are not enough time for you to do that. It's still your child spending more time in a school setting. I don't know. Hey, Duquesne, how are you? So I don't know what you guys feel or what you guys think about that, but in my opinion, I don't feel like they're overstepping, because I feel like what they're doing is finally taking accountability. I do feel that it's embarrassing right now to be a Black woman, considering the one person to object to this measure having been passed, and it's already been passed, right, is a Black woman. Knowing how our children are dying on these streets at the hands of our children. It's just illogical to me, because I don't think that there is anything else. I don't think that there is another solution that prevents human beings from coming up as teenagers thinking it's okay to murder one another on the streets, for somebody wearing the wrong color, or somebody stepping on their shoe, or somebody picking up their dollar. And these are actual situations that are unfolding every single day here in America. In Atlanta, it's even worse. Like, I have never seen such a large amount of violence for no reason. It's just illogical, right? So I don't understand it. So I don't think that there is another solution that's viable, right? Because then I ask the question, who is then responsible for ethical and moral conditioning? Let's say that they've overreached. Legislative authority should not be in the households of American citizens. Like, you're in our business, we don't want you here. Who should be responsible for rendering to our child just some basic principles of right and wrong? Because how bad is the 10 Commandments? It says, get yourself behind one significant higher power. You should have no other God before me. You can't idolize others. You can't idolize people. That's half of the issue solved of our young people and social media influence and the influence of negative music and all of that. Like I don't see what the problem is. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. That's the crime rate going down already. Like these are things that if our children were conditioned with them, these founding principles, we're just going from the beginning. The crime would drop tremendously. I saw a couple of stories in Florida as well, in Texas. Actually, what does the crime statistics look like right now in Florida? Because Louisiana, I know, I'm not sure. I know Florida is kind of racy about some of the legislation that's coming about there too, though. I think they're going in the opposite direction. I don't know, maybe the same direction, because they're talking about people can't be gay or can't say the word gay or something like that. What's that? I do think kids do begin conditioning with cartoons, which is also why I recommend it starting in the household. But if they're in an educational facility in the United States that is government funded, that also includes pre-K. So those are kids that are 3 and 4 years old, 3 turning 4 or 4 before September 1st in the United States. And I still think, don't get me wrong, I am heavily set on the fact that it should be the parents, right? However, what we can see based on the crime stats is that we're not making any segue with parents, because it's either that the parents are unknowing themselves or they just don't give a damn. I don't know. But, let me know if you guys feel like government is overreaching by passing this piece of legislation that essentially starts in Louisiana. If we look at the process of the development of government being in place and everything, and the ratification of the Constitution and Articles of Confederation and things like that, if we're looking at that took time, right, for other states to adopt same principles of government, law, and order, right? One body in unison. That's how this stuff kind of unfolds. So I do think that Louisiana is taking a stance because they don't want this to be a widespread thing. But the purpose, the excuse that's being given by this woman on TV is that she does not want to offend people that are a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, and she also doesn't want to offend people who are atheists, right? So it's okay if you don't believe in whatever you don't believe in, but I think that we all should be conditioned with one basic sound principle of just being morally and ethically respectful and compliant to some extent. Now, I do not know. I really don't. I do not know how much this will stretch, considering all the commandments, right? One could reach and say that because a person is a lesbian or gay, that those people or people that are part of alternative lifestyle community are coveting someone else's wife or somebody. I don't know. It's a lot of things that could be said in the far reach. However, I take one or two potentially offensive commandments any day over the crime rate that is happening right now, because those are things that kind of left to interpretation. But I think it's set in stone that children would then be fearful of the ramifications that come from a higher power if they kill someone, if they steal from someone, if they are out here idolizing people that are in the rap community, and some of the negative lyrics that we hear on, rap songs, and some of the promotion of murdering people for baseless things. And, all of this, I think Those are things that could be put to bed. It would stop the robberies. It would stop armed robberies. It would it's just so much. It's so much that would be prevented. I just feel like it's so much that would be prevented if we just had a basic and core foundationing of ethical conditioning and moral conditioning. Those are my thoughts. Okay. So let's talk about move forward. Continue to leave your comments about that piece. But I do want to kind of move forward because I do want to talk about political positioning, the perception and discussion of Roe versus Wade. Now, I know that this is probably going to be a hard, but hear me out. Okay. Give me some time. Okay. Give me some time to get through this. Okay. I made some notes. Let me pull up this thing. So, I will not go all the way through the process of the Constitution and the ratification process. I won't give you guys a history lesson. I won't do that. I will leave that up to you guys. Okay. I will. And that's definitely true. That's definitely true. But I think that that's still a component that parents control. But kids also are guilty. They feel guilty if they've been conditioned to feel guilty, but not if they have not. These kids even watch people murder themselves or get murdered on social media with they're completely desensitized now. Like, that's interesting to me. That's the biggest conflict that I feel. But so Roe versus Wade, right? In her lawsuit, Roe alleged that the state laws were unconstitutionally vague and abridged her right of personal privacy, protected by the First, Fourth, Fifth, Ninth, and 14th Amendments. Now, let's look. If we're looking at, let's see, the Constitution, right, and it being written, I do not, in any understanding, feel like the Constitution was written for women. I just don't. The basic underpinnings were not written for women. Even though, yes, we look at the word men as universally, referring to both men and women, I do believe that some of the amendment that came forth after women had the right to vote did definitely include women as then citizens of America, right? But I just do not feel that the Constitution was initially written for women. And I do not feel that the initial amendments were written for women. Okay? Now, the thing is, as I said, give me some time. One cannot say that you have a right to privacy and your right to privacy is being violated by way of you not being able to have an abortion based on your state law. I think abortion is not about a right to privacy. It's also not about a woman's right to her personal choices as it relates to her physical health care. When you think about it, the overturning of Roe versus Wade was definitely the right choice. I don't understand why people are so dead set on trying to make it's reaching. It's reaching. You're trying to make references and inferences that simply do not apply. They simply do not apply. A woman's right to privacy has nothing to do with her right to choose what her healthcare looks like. States have always governed healthcare. Abortions are a part of healthcare. So states should definitely reserve the right to make laws as it sees fit, based on its identification of what's necessary and what is outlawed and what are law practice or practices within the provisions of the laws as it relates to healthcare. Okay? So essentially, we're arguing a point that's very valid. The overturning of Roe versus Wade, it does not force states to be in collaboration where they already are not in collaboration. Healthcare is not universal. There are some healthcares you cannot use across state lines, right? So if you're trying to use your healthcare insurance to pay for your abortion, but your healthcare insurance is issued by this particular region, your abortion wouldn't be paid for anyway. So why are we having a discussion that about something that corrects an inadequacy in previous rulings? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. People are talking about, oh, well, that sets the precedent that anything regarding a woman's body or a woman's right to blah, 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 protected by the Constitution. A woman's right to her body and abortion is not protected by the Constitution. The Constitution was not written so that women could get abortions or to get in vitro or any of that. Those are state issues. Those are state issues. Unless we decide to have universal health care. Okay? We got to get past that first. Unless we have universal, federally funded only healthcare across the board for all of your different managed care organizations, all of your different healthcare insurance agencies, unless they are blanketed, the prices, the premiums, all of that from region to regions are now federally, mandated or federally overseen. Unless our licensing for the Board of Healthcare is now federal and not based on states, I'm sorry. Abortion should be an issue that is from state to state, regulated, like anything else. I don't see why it is that we're having a conversation around things that don't need to be discussed. If you don't like the laws of your state, move to another state or advocate for laws to change in your state. It's okay for you to press your legislators to do their job. It's a part of being a United States citizen. It doesn't mean that we stand against women getting abortions. Doesn't mean we stand against women getting in vitro if they need it. Doesn't mean that we stand against universal health care or any of that. But I think that there are levels to this. And Roe v. Wade was an inaccurate judgment that was rendered based on a misinterpretation of the law. That's not a right to privacy. It just isn't. It's illogical. So I feel like and if you watch TV at all, I'm not even a big TV fan, news fan. But I do feel like our current presidential candidates are politically positioning themselves to be able to get votes based on misconstruing the facts or the realities of the situation when it comes to the purpose of overturning Roe versus Wade. I think it's interesting how we have a current president who it's sad to say, because I don't believe in ageism. I think at any age you should be able to do whatever it is that your body, your mind, your spirit moves you to do. I just don't see his spirit, body, and mind being moved to do anything unless somebody else is moving him off the stage. Now, the problem is we don't have a viable candidate to run against him. I think the Democratic Party should have put someone else in place to run in place of Biden. I just do not see him living through this bout, and I do not think that he has done a good job thus far. I have never seen the access to healthcare in the Black community struggle so bad. I've never seen so many people being evicted. I've never seen so many people not being able to put food on their tables. I've never seen people not having access to their medical care or their medications in the way that these people are now dying from simple illnesses because they do not have access to health care or their medications. I have never seen the state of our union in such a thick state. We could just re-elect Obama, right? Like, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. But this, I'm not. And to be honest with you, I don't feel like we're in a place to where we can have a healthy election. But I do think that people have to make it their business to get out there and vote. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. What's a viable option? Because I got nothing. When I say I got nothing, I got nothing. Like I literally, I just have no answers as to how it is that we're going to come into a healthier state of being and be able to survive the next 4 years if we do not elect someone else. Because I feel like this president has zero accountability. And I feel like this president, I hate to say that I believe that he is, struggling with, accurately remembering things or seeing things as they actually are in America right now, the state of our union. But he's not even having a conversation to acknowledge the poor state of our union. He's not even having a conversation to acknowledge the fact that people are starving and people are homeless in insurmountable numbers and jobless in insurmountable numbers. He's literally denying that we're in a state of inflation and spending ridiculous amounts of money to support these people in a war, and we can't afford it. We're already printing money. We can't. It's a lot. It's a lot. Okay, it's a lot. So, let me pull up this family drama. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Let me see here how I do this. Pull this into your thingy. Let's see. Bear with me. I'm not super techy. But so, we're gonna take a look at this, okay? See if I can make it big. What's another option here? Okay. Maybe? Yeah. Okay. So, let me see. See if I can't make this bigger where you guys can really see it. So I shared this yesterday so that you guys could take a look at it if you were on my social media page on Facebook. And it basically says, I don't know how many of you watch Doubling Down with the Derrick Coes, but I don't. I was suggested this topic by a viewer though. So, divorce after 19 years of marriage and 14 children together. 14 of them. Dion and Karen, who got married in 2005, are parents to Derrick, 13, 12-year-old twins, Dallas and Denver, 10-year-old quintuplets, Dion, I don't know, Dayton, Danico, and Deriz, 6-year-old Diaz and Dior. They must really like these, okay? And 4-year-old triplets, Dawson, De'Aaron, and Diver. I don't know, you guys. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering the names. Those the oldest daughter, Darian, is 18 years old. So it says Dion will pay $1,166 in child support per month, and Karen will be responsible for paying the children's medical insurance, according to the outlet. $1,166 in child support for all those kids. They got 13 kids that are under the age of 18. That's nothing. Just saying. So it says the divorce news comes 2 weeks before the season 5 finale of their series, Doubling Down with the Derricos, on July 2nd. It has been stated that they simply should just stay together. Tomorrow's show, which is today's show, will delve onto my thoughts, but also the perception of money or the cost of happiness as it relates to how it is that we perceive us doing the best for family or doing the best thing for self, right? So my question for you guys, of course, is what do you think? Okay. What do you think about families who decide to stay together for the sake of the children? What do you think about people who decide that, you know what, I'm fully vested or I'm fully invested in this relationship because it's cheaper for me to stay with you and I do not have to pay child support, or my pockets will be flourishing if I don't? You know, what are you guys' thoughts around that piece? You have 14 children together. And I guess the question I should be probably asking is, have any of you ever seen that TV show? Doubling Down with the Derricos. Doubling Down with the Derricos. And how much do you guys know about American child support assistance? And do you know anybody who is on child support who is paying the sum of $1,200 up to $1,200 in child support a month? So those are a lot of questions, I know, right? But I'm curious about your thoughts. Do you think the concept of it's cheaper to keep her is still relevant in modern day society? And do you think that it's better for parents to stay in a situation to prevent them from having to pay child support and then also find means to be able to have a sustainable lifestyle for themselves, which oftentimes causes people to have to get 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs or whatever have you? Do you believe in court-ordered child support at all? Those are all great points of reference to the, to talk about in this part of the discussion, because I just feel like when we start talking about people staying in a relationship where they have clearly determined that they are no longer good for one another, you know if you're happy or not. You know if that person makes you feel like life is all worth it. And I know that people think that when married couples are having children, that, it means that they are happy, right? But oftentimes, children are born as the relationship way of pulling you back into the commitment that you made to that person. Oftentimes people are in a fit of rage, and there's a lot of high emotion, a high emotional energy and things like that. And you make up, right? And makeup sex causes kids. That's the reality. Not in all cases, but most cases. And they have a lot of children. They've been married since 2005. So almost 20 years. I don't know. I don't know. Um, yeah. I don't I often talk about how it is that I caution myself from encouraging people to end their relationships when they've married someone because, to be honest with you, when you're marrying someone, you're making a spiritual commitment as well as a physical commitment, right? You're committing yourself to someone, right? You're making an agreement known between yourself and someone. But at the same time, you're also making a commitment to the larger magnitude of the relationship, and you're making it official. So I think that we have to look at how that affects how the rest of our life is shaped. Um, but also I think your personal congruence and your personal happiness become one there, right? So if you're having a problem in your relationship, my suggestion is always to find a meaningful way to redefine how it is that problem has found a way to persist, to continue. Um, and like I said, I've never watched this show, but going off of this, right? You shouldn't just stay together simply because it's going to inconvenience you because you have to pay a sum of money out of your pocket. The reality is, and I may catch a lot of flack for this, you probably come out cheaper. I can't imagine what my budget is. I can't imagine. I can't imagine what my budget is per child, but I do know that, it costs roughly over 10 grand a month to run my household. That's with the food bill, miscellaneous clothing things, and just basic things that they need. Those are the things that they need. The bills, mortgage, all of that. It's inflation. Okay. We're inflation. We're in inflation. So I don't even think, I know that $1,166 is not going to even cover 50% of what that girl's going to have to pay in her mortgage or her rent and bills, like household needs just by themselves. So I feel like that if we're talking about cost alone, I don't think it's healthy to be in a relationship where you're only in the relationship because it's financially more convenient for you than not being physically present in the relationship, because emotionally you're still out of the relationship. It causes undue dissonance. It's going to cause undue hostility and undue harshness and distress, right? Resentment, that kind of stuff. Why would you stay in a relationship just because you have to pay child support if you don't find yourself in that relationship? It's just, you got to pay child support anyway. Okay? You got to pay some child support anyway. And $1,166 is not a lot for all of those kids. It's just not. Like, somebody do the math. Somebody please do the math. 13 of the kids are under the age of 13, right? Have 14 kids. I want to make sure I know. Like, hold on. I want to make sure I get it right. Yeah. 13 of the kids are under the age of 18. Okay. So that makes it roughly, it's under $100 per child. It's nothing. It's nothing. Why stay together because of the amount of money that he's going to pay in child support? I'm sure he'll pay more than that, and just him getting the things that they need outside of the child support that's supposed to cover his contribution. Because let me explain what child support is, right? Child support is supposed to cover the contribution that the parent would be making had the parents continued to live together. It's calculated generally in all states now based on the income of both parents and their ability to provide, right? Now, I thought it was interesting, because I haven't looked at all of the specifics. I'm thinking perhaps maybe they have something like split parenting time, because the reality is this is not enough if she's going to be the person providing health care for the kid. Because that money essentially is just going to go towards the bill of health care. I don't know. But I personally do not believe people should be made to pay for the responsibilities that are theirs anyway. I think that should be an agreed amount, whatever the amount is, and people should work together to take care of their kids. But I do understand the purpose of child support, because some people are not responsible in that way, or not emotionally mature enough to make the decision to do the things for their children, because they won't physically be with the parent that is primarily responsible for the custody of the child anymore. So I do understand that piece. However, what I do not understand is why people would look at this amount of money and say, oh, wait, that's too much money to pay for child support, when clearly you've been paying more than that, living in a household with her and contributing to the viability of the children. And if he's decided, both of them have decided they no longer want to be together, let's divest. Let's just not fight and say we did. That's what we're going to do. Okay. So let me know what you guys think about that. Moving on, I am going to do the relationship discussion around this. 1 second. Suggestion that was brought forth by who? I've just got to find it here. But as I find it, I'm going to read to you guys this one first, because I did say I will cover this one and I forgot it. That's just sad. When people so when you guys are submitting stuff to the show, let's try not to do it immediately after the show, because I did agree that to Susanna I was going to do the other one, but I'm going to read this one first, because I did tell this viewer that I would cover this. Okay, so if your adult child plans to marry, both your adult child and her significant other have children, you have been saving for your grandchild's college and have a nice size college fund, which will allow your grandchild to attend the college of her choice debt-free, right? Is it okay to divide the fund to include your child's stepchildren and forcing your grandchild to attend a public college and or have to get loans? Or would you just pay for your grandchild's college and not the stepchildren? That's a good one, y'all. You guys let me know how you feel about that. We're going to call that our bonus discussion. While I find this one. Good grief. Okay. Okay. This is crazy. Insane. Okay. Oh, well, there is Sue. She can give you guys the details. Maybe she's pulled it up. Let me add her to the stage. Because I'm looking. But before you. Hey, Susie, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. So I was looking for the one that you suggested. However, as I was looking for it, I did see the other topic that was given to me and asked for me to comment from a viewer. So before you get to that, I'd like to hear your thoughts about that one first. This one is a grandparent of a child who has been seeing somebody who also has children prior to the marriage. Okay. That they're anticipating. They're anticipating getting married to someone, and that person has children, more than one child. And this person has saved up a sizable college fund for their own grandchild, their child's child, their daughter's child. Okay. And since the daughter's getting married, they've been asked to divide the college fund among all of the children that would now be her children in marriage, stepchildren. I hate that term. I hate the term stepchildren. I mean, there are stepchildren, I guess, now because like they're older, perhaps. But so she's being asked to divide the fund that she's saved up for her grandchild, that currently her grandchild, the one child her child has, and divided amidst that grandchild and her soon to be additional grandchildren, bonus grandchildren. We'll use that term. Who cares? And she's reluctant to do so, but she's saying, would you guys in the audience go ahead and divide that sizable amount amidst all of the kids to account for the additional children that your child will be taking on as a result of getting married, to accommodate the requests of your child because they're getting married to this person, and force your grandchild, your biological grandchild, to take out loans or have to go to a public university instead of a more private university, not being able to afford college, basically. Would you do that? Would you divide it, or would you still just only say, well, hey, I saved this money for my grandchild, and this is what they're getting, and that's all I'm paying for?
That's a tough one, isn't it? Or maybe not.
What would you do?
Would I divide the money I saved for my grandchild to now split it up to all the kids involved? Because the kids belong to the woman my son's married, right? Well, the how's the word? I mean, I think the first thought might come to mind is heck no. Heck no. I'm sorry, she should have her own. Right? But then you start to think about, well, this is a family, it's no longer just one child, right? And are you sort of the grandmother? Are you taking on the role of grandmother for the kids, or just one kid?
They're getting married. Whenever your child gets married, you have to become the grandparent, right?
Right. So you have to think about, now I'm taking on the role as a grandparent for all these kids, right? So does that now mean I have to think about my money differently? Right?
I think so.
Yeah. So those would be the two thoughts I would have. One is a heck no, it's mine. And then when I settle down from my heck no, I would think about, well, I'm inheriting these kids as well, and I need to see them as my grandchildren. And if I see them as my grandchildren, then I need to treat them like my grandchildren. And have a conversation with my son and his wife about what that would look like. And I would probably discuss about how we could share up the money. But yeah, I know it would be, but the thing is, right, you have to come with the real belief that you believe these kids are your grandkids. Because if you don't think that the other kids are not your grandkids, you're not gonna do it. And if you do it grudgingly, you're gonna do it grudgingly with force. And then that creates issues. Separation between the family, him, her, the wife. But it's like I'm trying to think about how I would say it. For me, it's like, well, then now all my grandkids, I'll start to think about putting the money aside for all of them, including them on that list. And that's what I might do. That's what I think would be the healthiest thing also to do.
Hmm.
But I
Does
know
it
I can
depend on the
understand.
age of your current grandchild and how close they are to graduation, and how close those incoming grandchildren are to graduation?
Well, yeah, because you may have because the close. Well, then you see that those are conversations you have with your son and your daughter because we may have not everybody may not get the same amount. I don't know.
That's true.
Because the ones closer to graduating would need the money more. The kids that are younger, there's more time to save.
So when you say there's more time to save, is there more time for their parents to save now together because you've already depleted your funds?
But that's the conversation you would have with them about what kind of input would they also give. Because if they've got younger kids who's going to take several more years before they really need college funds, how are they going to contribute? Now it's no longer just me, it's us. Because this is now a family system, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it depends if you and the daughter, if you and the daughter-in-law's getting along.
There you go.
We
know what I think. That's 100% me. I'm not interested in my children marrying anyone who currently has children. I'm just not. I know, like, a lot of people just don't. I know. I have said so much about Kevin Samuels and all that good stuff. Let me tell you guys, I am not discriminating against single parents, mothers or fathers. I just prefer that my children marry someone who does not previously have kids.
But that may not be your decision.
Right.
And they may, in fact, go against your decision because they meet a woman who they consider really nice, compatible, and a nice little kid.
They don't know that. I don't tell them that, right? So I'm not telling them that. But the reality is that those are my sentiments. So if they marry someone who has children already, I personally am not going to be a fan of deciding to now give the college funds that I've saved up for my grandchildren. No, I'm not scared to somebody else's kids. I'm not doing it. I don't know. If I really connect with that person, and if they're getting married, I would think that I've definitely connected with the person they've chosen to marry. But
see, I think that's a big factor. Me and her connect in a way that I feel she's a support to my son?
If I've connected with her, let's say if she's got no, I just no, I'm not doing it. No. It's a no for me. No.
That would be the first thought. It's no. Go build your own nest.
Yes. No. It's no. Okay. So here are my thoughts. Right. God, I hate it because I'm getting a lot of flack for this show today. But I think if I connect with a person, whether it's a man or a female, if my daughter's marrying somebody who currently has kids, right? If my child has children and now they're getting married, I don't foresee that. I don't foresee my daughter having children before marriage. Not my daughters. I just don't think that. But let's say after they've gotten married and they've had kids, they now have to be remarried, okay? Because something happened to their spouse. And let's say they marry someone else. I still would prefer them not to marry a person that already has kids.
I could prefer that too. I would love for my kids to be married to somebody so that they can build their own family independent.
But I know it's possible, right? Especially if they have children, that they're going to be looking for somebody with kids already. Because why? Right? The reason is they want that person to already be acclimated to what it looks like to be a parent, right? So then I look at it from that view and that perspective. Let's say that person comes in with 1 or 2 kids that are outside. The ideal situation would be that person has custody of their kids and they were married to the mother. They believe in marriage and investment in the family. Let's say all of those things were true, right? In that case, if they came along with children, then yeah. Because then I'm on, because if I connect with the other person, it's based on the fact that they have pragmatic ideals about what it looks like for them building a life with my daughter. Or if it's one of my sons getting married, it's the same. I am not one of those very difficult mothers. I don't think that I'm a mom, a mother that prevents their kids from moving forward in life. I'm not a helicopter parent. I believe my kids are supposed to be out and, encouraged to build their own life. However, I do not support irresponsible decisions.
Right.
My money will not fund irresponsible decision making. So that extends not only to them, but also to their partner. And their partners have children, it's going to have to extend to their partner's children too. Unfortunately, this is life. I didn't make the rules, but I did.
You have a conversation with your daughter and son, or your son and his wife about what that could look like. What part do they play in contributing? Because now I put aside a certain amount for your kid, because my son or my daughter, and now I have to take into consideration. I'm thinking about how can we as a family support the rest of the kids in the family? What part do they play in supporting me and having and contributing as well to their kids?
Yeah.
Because I think I have to step outside myself to think about this. Because I'm telling you, the first thing is heck no. Yours. But I can't
mine too. I mean, mine is a no, because I don't even see that possible.
Right.
Because I know my children and I know their value system. I know how they think, and I know that they are well into adulthood, and they're just not. No, they're not investing in having kids without being married. They're not investing in doing things sexually, even getting out there and experimenting without being married, knowing that they could have children. That's just not that's not their thing. Now I could say an opposite thing for most of my sons that are adults, on the other hand. I don't know who raised them. It wasn't me. But I will definitely say they may be doing some things, and they may be making some missteps, and they may have some children. I'm just saying, but seriously, for the most part, my kids they're not doing that. They don't do things that will put me in a compromising position for the most part, because they know that I'm the type of person that will divest and have no problem with it. I'm unapologetically me. So when it comes to that, I have saved money for my grandchildren, and I'm still saving money for my grandchildren that have not been born. Okay, that are and have not been born. So my thing, I'm a full investor. I'm either all in or all out, as long as you're doing things responsibly, right? So, it's just it becomes one of those things. If you're leading an irresponsible life and you're marrying a person that led an irresponsible life, if you guys don't believe in even sending your kids to college in the first place, then
that's a different.
Yeah. So it's that for me. If I've connected with the partner and I feel like, okay, yeah, I accept you. I'm not splitting up the college fund for the one child if I'm only saving for one, but I'll start saving separately for their kids.
That's a good idea too.
That's my mindset, because I'm not gonna take something from you and give it to them. You know what I mean?
You continue to add, and now you're adding everybody.
Well, yeah. If I've already it said that you've already saved up a substantial amount, so it means that you are done saving with that, right? So if I'm done with that project, I'll start on the next. You know what I mean? I'll start on the all, and just squirrel more away. But I mean, essentially, it just is what it is. I feel like you're responsible for all of them. If you've accepted that once they are married, they are your grandchildren. That's my thing, right? Marriage brings together unison of all systems. So connectivity wise, they are my grandchildren. I'd have to probably have several conversations with their parent if they've been less than what I call acceptably responsible. And I think that just kind of comes with time, right? Because some people don't mature at the same rate as other people.
That's true.
But yeah, no, I'm not splitting up my money. I'm gonna start saving for your kid. We can talk about whatever. I gotta be honest. I was struggling with the whole divide.
I was struggling too.
It's not happening. But so I want you to give. Did you have a chance to pull up the one that you had about the woman three-way relationship? Okay, good. I did not find my rendition of it. I can't remember which phone I saved it on. For people that are viewing, I have 3 phones.
I don't know which one to call her. I just call her on all of them. She's going to answer one of them.
Yeah, eventually. It'll get answered. It's stressful. It's a lot to keep up with. But okay, so give some context. Give us the laydown.
So if the post was, I have an open relationship with my husband. Everything was fine between us. Last month, I found out I was pregnant with twins, and they were my secondary partner's babies. I told my husband about it, and his reaction was devastated. And his reaction devastated me. At 3 a.m. yesterday morning, he left me a letter. What are your thoughts? That was the post. What are your thoughts?
Good.
What are your thoughts?
So, my understanding was that the husband was consenting to the 3-way relationship, right?
It sounds like it.
Okay. If the husband is consenting to the relationship, how you gonna leave? You can't leave. Hey, this is what happens. Sometimes it happens. We're out here reckless.
3 of us.
Yeah, you consented to the relationship. He our husband too. What you doing? Where you going? You want to leave a letter and go somewhere? Where you going? Where are you going? You cannot leave me because you consented to us having this 3 people relationship, and now I'm pregnant by that person. That's my first thought. But I guess maybe at the underpinning of my first thoughts are, how in the hell do you know that soon that it's the other guy's twin? You know that soon. You just found out last night you're pregnant, and you already know that it's his twin.
She found out it was twins. So she kind of learned that in your first trimester or so, right? Second?
You can learn. You can hear both heartbeats, in the first trimester for sure. About 8 weeks, you'll know for sure it's twins. I mean, all of my twins, they were first heartbeat 6 weeks, both heavily, But I think I was the one that's not like, no, it's got your regular heartbeat. It's just one. Lies you tell. They both coming out your vagina. But I think,
oh God,
I think you do not have the right to leave me. I don't know. I'm so selfish. I don't know.
Well, I thought so too.
Right. It's just like, where are you going, sir?
Like, why are you leaving?
Right.
Like, why are you leaving?
What are we doing? What are you putting in this letter? I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine what he write in the letter. I changed my mind.
And so I changed my mind. Oh, we talked about that. You're not gonna get pregnant at all, and yet you get pregnant, and you just, you let me down, or you broke a promise, or some stuff like that. Be interesting because she left out some important things.
Yes, she left out a lot of info. I want to know how it is that you know already that it is the other person's twin.
Baby, right?
Because the reality is, it is very possible that one of the twins is his and one
It's
of
his
the
one.
twins. That's the reality. The way that babies are made, it takes 24 to 36 hours for full conception to finish itself and solidify. And oftentimes we do see with twins in separate sex and sometimes sharing a placenta. A placenta sac. Sometimes they do have two separate fathers. So I don't know, but I just.
Did they plan this? Did she and the other partner plan this without him? Did he change his mind even though they planned to have a baby and the baby just happened to be his and not the husband?
Let's see how. Like, even the most precise planning for pregnancies are hit and miss. Like, you can have your dates of ovulation down to a T. The time even down to a T. It's no way that you know that your babies are the other guy. You don't know that.
Yeah.
And where are you going, sir? You cannot leave me. You cannot leave. You consented. Once you consented to this, if I've gotten pregnant, you may not go. You may not.
So, was this really an open relationship?
That's not open, though.
That's my youngest son, who I'm waving. Please, I am on.
I didn't know you were on camera.
Yes, you do, because when you walked in the first time, I waved you away, and you heard us talking.
He's proud of all of his.
No shit. Thank God he got a nice little body. Okay, don't you all call and ask who's that?
Right?
21-year-old
on my channel, like, hey, how do I find him on Insta?
No. He's 21 years old and taken. I don't know.
Good God, taken by somebody.
I don't know. Did you see how handsome he is? He's taken. I don't know. Anyhow, I don't know. Was this really an open relationship for him be so angry?
But see, it's not an open relationship. It's limited to, because a lot of people think that if a person is added to the relationship, it means it's an open relationship, but it doesn't. It's a non-monogamous relationship, but it's still a non-monogamous exclusive partnership, because if he's only okay the one person, that's still a committed relationship with her and the two guys. But it's not open for her to just screw whoever she wants. So going, enter into a romantic partnership with whoever she wants is just the two of them. So I could see if she said, hey, I'm pregnant, I have absolutely no idea who the father is. Well, how would you know if it's either of them anyway? But I've been sleeping with several men. Somebody's been sleeping in your bed every night. Whatever.
Right. So there's a lot more to find out about this to make some decisions. So he had to have left because there's more to this.
Yeah, he left. He left and left a note. I tell you what, he can't. You better come back. Girl, go get him. Reel him back in, because he cannot just go. Yeah, no.
At
you don't
3 a.m.
Yeah, you don't get to go at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's already pregnant. She hot and horny. This is when you're supposed to be getting it and running. You don't have to go on red lights anymore. The lights are gone. All the lights are green. But I don't know, you guys. I don't know.
What it speaks to is how people communicate in relationships, right?
Right.
But, her letter gives us her letter have us asking more questions than what she put in there. So how have they been communicating in this relationship such that we can get her like this?
Yeah.
I have an open relationship. I got pregnant from my partner and he left at 3 a.m.
Yeah. It says that her relationship is as complicated as her situation. That's what it says.
Right.
It says that she has previously been incapable of responsibly showing up for putting together a relationship that is based on a mutual respect and love for two people or three people, whatever they got going on. But more importantly, they have been incapable of communicating effectively. Somebody hasn't been hearing somebody. Don't know who the somebodies are. Okay.
Right.
So I think that we do have to ask the questions of whether or not this person really felt like they were only in a relationship with she and him, or if this person really felt like they had control of the extent or the depth in which her relationship went with the other person. I would be asking questions as to whether or not they thought that if you were having protected sex that you can't get pregnant. Because some people start to jump to the word that means you must have been having unprotected sex, but the reality is condoms simply don't do the protection that we hope for.
Right.
Okay. But so yeah. Those are our thoughts on that, you know. I know you had some things to do. We talked about the state legislative assembly of Louisiana passing the law to have the 10 Commandments on display in all K-12 and state-funded colleges in large print on posters, so that all who attend the universities and the facilities may take heed to the 10 Commandments. We talked about that. We talked about parenting over the course of a lifespan, some of the expectations of what parenting should look like from early childhood to early adulthood, late adulthood, how that changes. And talked about the education system and whether or not they've overstepped in that particular decision in Louisiana and what that means, setting a precedence for other states in the United States to move back to having some level of religion
and
placed back into the schools and stuff.
And it's not religion you need to bring back into the school. It's an understanding of spirituality. That's really what they need to bring back into this, because religion is not what keeps people whole and healthy. It's not what saves your soul. It's your spirituality that really saves your soul. If you really believe there's a God, however he looks like, you know, the God of your understanding, it's your spirituality that connects you.
It is. But do you think that, like, because we talked about the reality of people having this idea that the school has no place in their conditioning of their children, and that they are the people that should be responsible for ethical and moral conditioning. And so what I did was I went down, to catch you guys up, but I went down the hours of a day. Each day has 24 hours, right? If your child is bedtime for 8 hours, right? Not necessarily sleeping. We recommend 4 to 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep, which means an hour to get to bed, an hour to reach wake. So that's an 8-hour period of sleep time, right? So if they're sleeping for 8 hours, they're in school for 8 hours, we're already at 16 hours. We give commuting time 2 hours, right? To and from school, right? So now we're at 18 hours. We give preparation for school and preparation after school homework time, another 2 hours. We're at 20 hours. So that leaves 4 hours of uninterrupted time, person to person, with parents and child interaction during the week. 4 hours. So we ain't talk about dinner.
Right.
We ain't talk about breakfast. Okay? So that's 4 hours that dinner is not a part of the equation.
You see, for me, it's like you hear the statement, it takes a village to raise a child. The school is part of the village.
That's true.
So, I mean, you know, from my culture anyway, my neighbors disciplined us and they had the right.
Yeah.
My neighbors taught us about religion. They taught us about what it means to pray, right? You know, I remember I had a neighbor who was Japanese, and every morning he'd be outside doing something funny looking in the backyard. And then we just started going, what it was, he was doing Tai Chi. And we just started going out there and doing what he did. And then one day he would just come out and he just show us new steps. And then one day my brother finally asked, "What are you doing?"
And what are we doing?
And he didn't answer it. Well, he asked the man, "What are you doing?" And he didn't answer. And then another time he said, "It's called Tai Chi. It cleanses the soul. It allows you to see your spirit by opening up your soul and how did he say, like emptying out the old stuff and let the spirit come on in so you can know who your God is." He taught us how to understand that stuff too. So he was part of the village.
Mm-hmm.
So how could you say take the village, but you don't want the school to be part of your village?
Right. And more importantly, it was for me the fact that I just don't understand. I don't like the way you can easily see them putting a Black person at the face of so many things that are essentially going to end us as a nation of people. Like, why put a Black woman as the person that has to take a stand against the 10 Commandments being inside of the institution of education? We don't remove "In God We Trust" off the dollar bill, and we spend the dollar bill. We hold the dollar bill close and near. They're our best friend. We don't argue about religion. We don't argue about anti-gay or anti-lesbian and things like that. We don't equate that our dollars to that. You understand? But as soon as someone wants to put it in the schools, we want to say it must be anti-lesbian or it's anti-gay, or you know what I mean? You can be lesbian, gay, whatever, and still believe in God.
Absolutely.
You still have morality. Some people are atheists, and they are entitled to be atheists if they want to. But we want to at least have an influence over the population, vast majority of population that we can reach, to try and bring down some of the numbers of violent crimes that are happening in the world. The commandments are simply boundaries. They're the moral boundaries as to how it is that the principalities of life apply to you as a person when it comes to accountability. That's it. It's teaching accountability from a young age all the way through early adulthood, so that once you become a mature adult, you operate like a mature adult and you have some level of accountability on the way. It improves the condition of our society where kids are no longer having to worry about being shot at the bus station or shot on the MARTA bus or shot at school, mass shootings, robberies, being, you know what I mean, taken for everything they got, home break-ins, home invasions. All these things are against the basic tenet of the 10 Commandments. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't see why people are so hell-bent on staying away from the 10 Commandments. I don't understand do you understand why it is that people don't want the 10 Commandments to be conditioned to their children?
I don't understand that, but I think what it is people don't want to be told what to do or how to live their life or how to think about things. And that's not what none of that is. It's not about telling you what you need to do and how you need to think. It's about how you build your family spiritually, and your family is the village. Because this country is spiritually bankrupt. It's clear. Agreed. And that's why there's so much division.
I agree with that. And I feel like we are playing into it when we do not give ourselves space to receive the basic tenets of conditioning people to have a moral high ground to kind of go back to. So before we leave, right, in our final discussions, I do want to be able, let me pull it up and read verbatim. And of course, this comes from the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints.
Oh, you're going to get a flack for that.
You'll be like, woo!
You're going to get flack for that.
I answer the door. But I'm just going to read, because all they're doing is quoting these 10 Commandments and which books of the Bible and where they could be found from, right? So it basically says, where did they come from? God gave his people the 10 Commandments in a section of the Bible called the Old Testament. We all know that. At that time, a group of people led by the prophet Moses had just escaped slavery, right? When Moses prayed to God for help, God gave him the 10 Commandments, which we still follow today. And that was interesting to me. Why? Black people in America, it's us who say, we will not follow the 10 commandments we will not follow the Old Testament. We will not follow the King James Bible because it only teaches people how to enslave us, our oppressors to enslave us.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it depends on what you perceive to be enslavement. It holds you accountable for the things that you do in this world that are considered to be grave sins against man and God. So the first commandment is the most important commandment, of course, is thou shalt have no other God before me. And in every single other form of religion, you do see the same commandments being echoed. So it's not about just the religious component. All religions are based on the same housing, believe it or not.
Right.
The words are spoken differently, but it still says the same thing. It says that if God wants what is best for you, he's saying that you shouldn't be put something before him because your life should be led by the grace of him, to be led by you pursuing your life to be honorable and acceptable by him, right? So it makes it harder for him to bless you if you're breaking these commandments, if you're serving more than one God and you are spiritually divided in between. If we think about it, like society, if we're spiritually divided into society and religion or spirituality, it's just basically saying that you need to have one belief system that guides the basic foundation of who you become as a person. I don't see what is so terrible about that. Number 2, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. So anything that you worship more than God is a graven image. That's that piece of you worshiping cars, clothes, music, people, jewelry. All of those things, sports, all of that stuff, right? It's you understanding that you don't need to put and idolize others. Don't put people on pedestal. That's it.
That's right.
Worship him only. Cling to his words and his commandments, and your prayer and your reflections will lead and guide you to having a fulfilling life. And you'll get all of those things, but don't make those things the forefront of why you move and how you move. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, absolutely.
Because it prevents you from doing the other things. So, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Means that using God's name in cuss words and swear words and saying that you are of this religion so that you can gain something, you know what I mean? So using it in a way that you can actually profit from other people or manipulate people to give you something is also going against the commandments of the Lord, right? So it's that piece, right? Then the fourth one is remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. So for some religions, the Sabbath day falls on a Saturday. For some, it falls on a Sunday. Those different people, it just means that, yes, we all have to work. We all have to do something. We all have to earn a living. But in order to prevent us from being people that follow the principality of the worldly life, right? We have to take a day for rest and work. That's our day that we dedicate only to worshiping God. So it keeps us grounded, keeps us whole, keeps us feeling fulfilled, and it keeps us motivated. Right. It keeps us motivated because it helps us find ourselves a way into understanding why we have all of these things that we've been blessed with. And it gives us, a foundation that makes us cling to and cling to accountability, and then worship and praise and thank God for giving us the things that He's given to us. I think the most important one is the 5th commandment of honor thy father and thy mother, so that your days shall be longer on this earth. Right? That's found in Exodus 20:12. That's important because God loves us in the way that God loves. We love our children, right? Or a parent loves their child. And what that means is that kind of love needs to have some level of reciprocation. It teaches you to honor the people, not worship the people. Honor the people that God has placed into your life, even if that person didn't birth you. He's placed these people in your life to teach you, to guide you, to mold you, to shape you, to cultivate you into a productive, responsible human being.
Mhm.
So give them honor so they can show you how to give him the glory, and appreciate them for the things that they do. Respect them.
Mhm.
Don't disrespect those people. Don't take them and their presence for granted, because at any point that could be stripped from you, right? And then it gets to the most important and impactful ones when it comes to what we see in society right now.
Right.
Sixth commandment: thou shalt not kill. I don't think it gets easier than that. The
Mhm.
number one sin that is happening in the Black community, the number one thing that is causing pain throughout the entire Black community, is the insurmountable crime against our own.
Mhm.
We are murdering each other at a ridiculous rate, and for nothing. And for nothing. It's for nothing. And the reason that these nothings are happening is because we find ourselves worshiping humans, worshiping
right.
clothes,
That's
worshiping cars, money, all of these things. Murders happen because of these things, because we're breaking the founding principle, right? We find ourselves committing these other sins. I don't understand it. The seventh is thou shalt not commit adultery. A lot of people think that for whatever reason, this goes and speaks toward a person being gay or lesbian.
Right.
If your gay or lesbian marriage was ordained by and blessed by God in a church or whatever, whomever presided over your union, you're still married to those
Married,
people.
right.
You still make that commitment
Mhm.
before God. How does that then make you commit a sin? Now, I'm not saying that other parts of the Bible doesn't reference, gay men and that kind of stuff, but that has nothing to do, that's a prophet's interpretation. That has nothing to do with the 10 founding commandments. It's not there. So why reach and put it there? Right? It's very, very simple. If you've made a promise that includes yourself in God, honor that promise to forsake all others. Keep yourselves to yourselves, right? And that way people don't go out and commit the sin of killing each other because you're feeling away about a person.
Right, because you've broken human rule.
Right. Exactly. So then you have thou shalt not steal. That's an additional element of crime that we notice happening in our community right now, right? In order for us to have trust and to be loving towards one another and to welcome in with love and kindness, we can't feel like they're going to steal from us. It's just basic morality. Don't take things that are not yours.
Not yours.
Learn to be honest.
Accept the no. Accept the no. If you ask and they say no, you can't have it. I don't think so. Let it go. You don't have to go around, walk around, and just kind of take it, and because you feel entitled to it.
And then that goes along with thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, because it's also deception. You're being you're deceiving somebody and trying to manipulate them. All of these are about being a common and a decent person.
It's about your morals.
Okay? If you lie to someone, you are bearing false witness and may cause harm to yourself and other people. It's really, really simple. Really simple. And then the 10th commandment is thou shalt not covet. To covet means to be jealous of someone or something. And it's envy that places us into this place where we now feel like we have to take someone else's life. We have to remove them from this earth. Do the thing called killing, deception, lying, stealing. These are things that we do as a result of us coveting another one's possessions, trying to be or desiring the things that they have, trying to be them, live their life, envying them. I think that those are the foundation for a healthy human being. Why are we so dead set against an actionable, repercussion for, or consequence for our children being so far removed from ethical and moral standards. Why are we as Black people, why are we the face? Why do we have to be the face? Why does a Black woman has to be a face of removing something that could improve the condition of the Black community? Why?
It's a good question.
Why us? It could have been any other woman. It could have been any other woman. Why a Black woman was chosen for that? It's just beyond me. How it
Why
is
did
that
she take the job?
right?
But because if Black America understands their life through how slavery happened, right? Spirituality and religion is what kept them going. It's what saved them. They'll tell you that. So why would you, now that you're free, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not technically enslaved anymore, right?
Yeah.
Why would that no longer matter?
Why would you enslave yourself oppositely? Why would you oppress yourself oppositely away from any type of spirituality, any type of morality?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you enslave yourself to a worldly view that's definitely going to damn you? End your life soon. You'll never make it, to the grace of God. You'll never make it to 70 because you'll be fearful of your life. I don't understand the mindset, the ideation that guides this lack of congruence in society. And we'll find anything to say that, oh, this is a violation of people's religious freedoms. It is not.
No, how is it? How is it
it's a violation of people being lawless and not held accountable. It reinstates the basic tenets of humanity: being kind, respectful, law-abiding citizens. I understand that.
And it's about, you making that kind of a statement is in fact really perpetuating the very myth
of violence and the chaos that ends the Black community, literally. Yeah. I'm like, why put a Black woman there? There are several people within the school system that could have spoke out. They used her face for a reason. We are influenced by us. The same thing happened when it came to COVID vaccinations. They put a Black face up there because Black people are distrusting against anybody else that's not Black, according to them. Mm-hmm. It's just, don't be so easily manipulated, so easily applied. Think for yourself. Learn to think independently. As far as the discussion topics that we talked about today, I thought they were very interesting. If you guys have caught us on the end of the video, please go back and rewind somewhere around 5 minutes or so to start the video, because until I edit it, there will be this little temporary glitch where there is no sound. Us is fine. But I want to thank you guys for coming through and watching the show and being an active part of the discussion. Thanks for those who commented. Your engagement is always appreciated here. Your thoughts are always welcomed here. And I do welcome you guys to continue to leave your comments as you go back and review the video. But please remain respectful in the comments, because on this platform, we do believe in having those difficult discussions, but it's important, it's paramount that we are respectful and we hold one another in high regard as we have these discussions. Because to be honest with you, this probably is the most important show that I've ever aired, because I do think that we are finally in the state where perhaps at least one state in America has moved progressively towards alleviating the insane amount of chaos and violence happening against the Black community. And I know that so many people think police brutality is a problem, but it isn't. It's our brutality against one another that is killing the large majority of us. So if we, I think, work together and find ways to support this, other states, I'm sure, will adopt the same principles and ratify the same principles, and maybe we can start healing the community that is just so lost, which is us. So, any thoughts before we leave, Susie?
I mean, I just thought also, as people take a look at the video, it's 2 hours, so that's not bad, to really answer some of those questions yourself for you. why do I feel the way I do? Why do I think the way I do? Based on just listen to what's been talked about and then answer those questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do
And
you
then let me
feel
know.
like,
Yeah, let me know how you guys think. So if you do believe that this legislation does require the level of pushback that it's getting, because to go back on the realities of it, the state of Louisiana has filed a lawsuit against the legislative committee in Louisiana for passing this law. It's already a law. It's already been passed, but it's getting so much flack. And the lawsuit is saying that it's unconstitutional. It violates the constitutional right to freedom of religious expression, etc. But my thing is, again, if you use these dollars, these Benjamins, okay, these Jacksons, if you're spending the money, our money is printed on the same tenet. In God we trust.
In God we trust.
So if you feel so heavily, let me get that money. I'm just saying. Huh? You don't want the money. You don't want to spend the money. Yeah. If you really feel so heavily about the 10 Commandments being in schools and being a component of reconditioning society, that means you should also divest from spending money. That's where I am. The word God makes you so uncomfortable. The element of, or the expectation of having basic common core decency makes you so uncomfortable. I think that's what you should do. So that's where I am on that. Let me know what you guys think about the relationship discussions that we had today about the grandmother who's having the conflict around the possibility of her having to split money that she has saved for her grandchild amidst now additional grandchildren that she's going to inherit as a result of her child getting married. And let me know how it is that you guys feel about the young man that decided to exit stage left of his relationship, his marriage, because his wife ended up pregnant by the person that he condoned to be a part of their relationship after the fact. So let me know what you guys think. And again, thank you for watching. Go out and be your best version of yourself. Continue to spread love and light amongst the people that you find yourself aligned with. And continue to be a positive part and positive impact on the community around you, and hopefully utilize the principles of the 10 Commandments in your life.
How did you get here? How did you really get here? Exactly. Not your parents. That's not the answer.
Not from your parents' womb, but how did humanity even become an element that we are able to even be? Right? God is in all things us. And if you find yourself at a place where you cannot believe it, you just do not believe it, I always say just get real silent. Get real silent. Go sit by the sea, sit by a lake, sit underneath the moon, look into the sky, and listen for the calm and the peace that is God all around us. I just don't think we give enough credit to the things that happen around us that we cannot scientifically explain. You know, it's amazing. Bird watch or something. But that is all that I have, you guys. I absolutely love you guys, YouTube. And if you're on another platform, Facebook or Twitter, where this is airing, I've not really acclimated myself to you as much as my YouTube family, okay? So there is that. Continue to share this content, like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. If you're a first-time viewer, I appreciate you. That's all I got. Later days.
Yeah.
Bye.